kind of moving on to what is probably the perennial overall number one pick out of the NFC coming from the NFC South. I had Tampa Bay going
Yeah,
15-2,
I,
winning this division fairly easily. Um, not too much. I will say I played Homer a little bit and maybe a little biased. I had them losing to the Colts and Falcons in back-to-back away games in Week 12 and 13. Other than that, I had them running the table. I don't
so
see any
I actually had
I don't
them
see
going
any
16
reason why
and
they
one. They
shouldn't
are
be the
my
one
one
seed,
seed in the
personally.
NFC. The one game that I have them losing is actually the Bills in Week 14 after they beat the Colts and the Falcons. I think that is a really really tough stretch to go
Oh,
Colts,
okay.
Falcons, Bills. Those are I think three of the
Yeah,
top 12 teams in the league. Three in my opinion playoff teams.
yeah.
So that's a really tough stretch to come off of. There's a few
Yeah.
other games
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that I think that they could potentially lose. Going into New England is always a wild card. They play the Rams in Week 3, and they lost to the Rams last season. Um, but for me, actually, so my biggest surprise was not that the Bucks went
Yeah.
16-1, but it was actually the fact that Carolina Panthers made the playoffs on my board. They are 9-8, and they're the 7th seed. Um, and so I actually have three teams in this division
Really?
in the playoffs,
Interesting.
and I have the Falcons at the 6th seed at 12-5.
Hey, I also have them at 12-5.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second because I'm going to look at Carolina. I actually
Oh,
have
really?
Carolina
So
being last in the
I didn't realize
division,
that I did this,
going
but
6-11, actually.
this
Yeah.
will not happen. But I had the Saints at 0-17. Uh, I think yeah I didn't do it on purpose. I just kind of was going through and like,
Oh, really?
but if you think about it, they won the division last year. Like they have to play the best team in every division. Uh,
Let me look at this here. Lose to Green Bay. So that's where
yeah,
I could see Carolina winning week 2.
I
New
think the
England will
Giants
beat
are
the
a better team.
Saints. You have the Saints losing to the
I really think the
Giants.
Giants are a better team. Then the next week they have to go to Washington, and I think
Really?
Washington's
Okay.
defensive front will is too dominant for an inexperienced quarterback that they have in either Jameis or Taysom. Uh, and then, well, okay, he
Well, define
his
it.
experience.
Jameis Jameis
His
is
experience in
experienced,
throwing
but I think it's going to be
interceptions, I do
interesting to
not think will
see.
bode well
How,
against a strong secondary in New York. Yeah,
okay, that's fair. It is a strong secondary in New York. So I gave the Saints benefit of the doubt against New York
but
because
it
I
was
think the
only weak
Giants'
last year because
offense is
Saquon
weak,
Barkley got hurt.
and I think they'll be able to stop Saquon Barkley and
And they did a number to improve the wide receiver position.
That's fair.
I think
Okay,
they
that's fair.
drafted Kadarius Toney
So
and signed Kenny Galladay out of Detroit. Um, the biggest question mark now, I think, is Daniel Jones. So, but then they go on they have an early bye week in
okay,
week
okay,
6,
I
and then
like
they go
that.
play the
Yeah.
Seahawks,
Okay.
Buccaneers, Falcons, Titans, 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And then they play Eagles, Bills, Cowboys. I think the Jets in Week
That's
14
tough.
are gonna play them pretty tough. And then they play to close out the season. They play the Buccaneers, Dolphins, Panthers, Falcons. So
Yeah. So my thing, especially with the NFC South, minus Tampa Bay this year, um, but the Saints and Falcons almost always seem to split games. It always seems like they're really competitive. So that's where I feel like the Saints will have a couple of victories in the division. I have them going 3-3. Um, but yeah, I agree with you. I also have the Jets beating New Orleans, but I think the Saints are better than Philly. Philly's just such an unknown. Like so, but that being said, and actually I didn't realize
ooh,
this, but I have
Philly.
them actually eighth in the conference at seven
Oh,
and ten, which is very
I just don't
no
think they're
the
that good. I
Saints.
think they had to cut a lot of
Um,
guys due
yeah,
to
I
due
had
to the
them at
salary
7 and 10.
cap. Uh,
Um,
yeah,
I agree. And then having Drew Brees is going to be very interesting. And you're
Hmm.
talking about, so I think Jameis Winston could thrive in the Sean Payton offense, but I could also see it being an absolute disaster. Taysom Hill is a complete unknown, and that's where I wouldn't
Yeah,
want to play Taysom Hill
because
against a team like the
yeah,
Washington football team with how good their defensive front is. I think that they tear it apart. I think they tear that Saints offense apart. At least Jameis Winston has some
his
poise
30 for 30
in the
season,
pocket, and he did throw like people talk about how many interceptions.
over 5,000
Well,
yards.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
but didn't he throw 52
Well, but he would do
touchdowns?
this
Not
like he
50
would dig a hole
touchdowns.
for himself and then he'd try and throw
5,000
out of it.
yards. Yeah, yeah,
So
over
a lot
5,000
of those
yards.
yards were coming in the second half where they were just throwing bombs down the field. But
Oh yeah, I mean,
oh no, he's
oh yeah.
older
Well, I
than
mean,
you.
the
I
kid can sling. The
like
kid, I think
28 or
he's my age.
29.
Uh, um,
He's the same age as Marcus
how old is
Mariota.
he?
I know that.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, he's not that much older than
but
me. Um,
anyways, I want to touch on the Falcons
that's
really
fair.
fast before we move on
Uh,
to the NFC East. But I think the Falcons could be like serious contenders this year. I I think the biggest thing that's been holding them back was leadership, and I think they could win a lot of those close games that they lost last year. I still think they're going to
yeah,
struggle to get past Tampa Bay. I mean I have them losing both games
yeah,
against Tampa
yeah,
Bay, uh, but
yeah. I agree.
I think they could go 12-5, legitimately.
Mhm. I so 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 I have them splitting every game in the division. I think it helps
Mm-hmm.
out a lot that they finished last year in the NFC South because their overall record's not their overall division is not that difficult. Sorry, schedule. Their overall schedule is not that difficult. Like I think that they're a better team than Philly winning week one. I agree with you. I think Tampa.
Yeah.
Because I also think it's going to take some time probably to get used to the new Arthur Smith system. But even then, their defense was miserable last year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an unknown with the new defense coordinator Dean Pease, I believe is his name, if that's how you pronounce it. Um, so even if the
Mm-hmm.
defense is
Yeah. Yeah.
mediocre, then then that'll be an improvement compared to last year. Uh, we'll have to see how some of the rookies come, the new signees. But I agree with you, and then before their bye weeks, they do also have an early bye week as well.
Yeah.
I think they can beat New York. I think they can beat Washington, and I think they can beat the Jets. So uh, I had them at 4-1. I am a Falcons fan, so am I biased? Most
Mm-mm.
doubtedly for sure. But all in all, though, I don't think that's that far of a stretch because just considering how good their offense was last year, even without
Yeah.
Julio Jones, who only played in half the games, and I think he only contributed like 800 yards and like 2 touchdowns. So that's one of the things people will talk about losing Julio Jones. Yeah, did like arguably one of the greatest Falcons, if not the greatest Falcons to ever play the game. But if you're looking at last year's season and where this team is at to now, and if you just lose Julio Jones, and they lost a couple of
Mm-hmm.
offensive line pieces, but I think they're bringing back, and they've added several good pieces as well.